We had talked about it when I was on the show last, and it's a very sensitive subject, and people are saying, well, why did you say it? Well, it got to the point where I was trying to speak up for the cut men and being the leader and bringing this up and talking to the guys in UFC. We had no clout whatsoever. We weren't even in the equation of getting sponsorships, and I personally depend a lot on my sponsors to make it work. So I would have, of all the cut men, I would have lost more financially. But speaking up for the cut men, I try to talk to the UFC, and they basically had told us that there's no money in the kitty. And I did an interview with BloodyApple.com, and as I had mentioned it here on Junkie Radio, I let them know that it's not good for us. And I don't think I read the article again last night.
I read it twice.
I read it again, and I thought maybe I said something wrong. But I personally, I think what happened, or what's happening right now, is not so much what I said, because I didn't say anything wrong. I stated my opinion, and we as cutmen should be compensated for wearing Reebok. How can you wear Reebok and not get paid? To me, that's just not right, plain and simple. But I think the reaction that the fans have done and coming out and created a firestorm, and I don't think that the UFC was equipped to handle that. And I'm the fall guy, man, so taking a bullet for the team, brother.
So you heard yesterday from the UFC?
Yeah, I got a call, and Charlotte and I were we were at Costco, and got a text, wanted to know if we could talk, and I said, well, I'm at Costco, can we meet or talk at 4:30? And I got home, and
this is not Dana, by the way.
No, it's not Dana. Yeah, and as soon as I got on the phone, I said, hey, how you guys doing? All right, good. Listen, here's the quote. They don't want you to work any more UFC shows because of the article you did on Reebok. That was it. And I'm not gonna. The guys that called in are guys that I respect, and I have a lot of. I have a friendship with them, so I wasn't going to blast them because I knew that they were the messengers and they weren't the guys that actually made the decision. Mm-hmm. But, real disappointed that it didn't come from Dana, since he's the one that brought me on, But here we are.
When you got the initial call, did you have an inclination that it could be bad, or was there a part of you that thought, hey, maybe everything I've done is working towards my favor and they could be saying, let's talk?
Well, in all fairness goes, I thought, okay, I brought up this article, did this interview and all that, and I figured that they would have said, well, you know what, it's right now it's a sensitive subject. Maybe you could just wing yourself off of that and don't do these type of interviews. That's basically what I expected, because that's usually what any corporate company will do, right? Instead of just hammering you right off on the spot and not giving you any recourse for stating your own case. So I expected them to say, you know what, just chill out a little bit. But no, this was the quote, is they don't want you working any more UFC events.
One thing that came to mind for me was the Burt Watson incident. Okay, it's something very similar. And our initial reactions were, Burt's been here forever. He's the best at what he does. This happens with friends, family. We have disagreements, but we feel like sometimes eventually people will come around and the situation will be resolved. That situation has not been resolved. Your initial feelings, do you feel like maybe further down the line something can start again, or is this pretty much goodbye to the UFC?
No, I'm always, I love working with the UFC. I love working with the fighters and even the people. I loved everything. That's why to me it's a little bit of a shocker. And but that was the thing with Burt Watson. And Burt Watson was the first person that I called. As soon as I found out, I said, hey, man, guess what happened? And he goes, no shit. But yeah, I'm always open. I'm never close any doors. And like I say, I've had calls from UFC employees that are calling me, fighters and everybody giving me their support. And the bottom line goes, and George, is, my job is to take care of the fighters. And whether it's in the UFC or whether it's some other organization, that's what I'm going to continue to do.